Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome. It's a busy day, and here's some of the topics we'll be covering today. Former Obama staffers are firing back pretty hard at Hunter Biden this week after the president's son unloaded on them in a fiery new interview. The host of the popular liberal podcast Pod Save America did not hold back on Biden. We have that for you. In a rare statement last night, former President Barack Obama denied President Donald Trump's bizarre allegations, as he described it, that he was the Russiagate ringleader. We have the latest on this breaking story as well. And a New York man is facing federal charges after allegedly building and stashing homemade bombs across Manhattan, including on active subway tracks and residential rooftops. We have the latest on this breaking story. Remember following all the wildfires in California, how the Hollywood elite jumped in and had a couple of big benefit concerts? They raised over $100 million. Where did the money go? The more than 2,000 people who lost their homes are asking the question because it appears no one benefited directly from Governor Gavin Newsom's commission he established to oversee the distribution of the money.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
A New York man is facing serious federal charges after allegedly manufacturing and stashing homemade bombs in multiple locations across Manhattan. Michael Gann is his name. He's 55 years old, of Inwood, New York. He was charged yesterday with constructing at least 7 improvised explosive devices, known as IEDs, using chemicals he reportedly purchased online. The charges were announced by U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton. According to federal authorities, Gann's alarming activities included throwing an IED onto active subway tracks on the Williamsburg Bridge area and hiding other explosive devices, some of which included shotgun shells on rooftops of apartment buildings throughout the city. Gann was arrested on June 5th while allegedly in possession of another device. On the same day, he posted a cryptic message on Instagram: "Who wants me to go out to play like no tomorrow?" Images provided by the U.S. Attorney's Office show that Gann was holding multiple suspected IEDs and one device allegedly thrown onto the subway tracks. FBI Assistant Director Christopher Rea credited the rapid collaboration between law enforcement agencies for preventing potential harm. This could have been devastating. In a statement, Rea said the swift partnership between the FBI and our local law enforcement counterparts stopped Gann before he could cause damage. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch echoed the sentiment, saying the coordinated investigation intervened before he caused any harm. A case is being prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney National Security and International Narcotics Union. According to the gravity of the charges, the further investigation is ongoing to determine whether Gann acted alone or was part of a larger network. Authorities have not reported any injuries linked to these devices. In other breaking news yesterday, former Obama staffers fired back pretty hard at Hunter Biden. The host of the popular liberal podcast, Pod Save America, Tommy Vietor, John Favreau, and John Lovett, they slammed Hunter for what they called a sense of entitlement and accused him of hypocrisy and self-pity.
But mostly it is 3 hours of Hunter playing the victim, and he like rages at us and he rages at Axelrod and Clooney. But the problem was the voters.
I know.
And they never
That's all I
addressed
wanted
that.
to say.
The voters thought Joe Biden was too old. And when it comes to the attacks on Hunter himself, like, okay, what if we just stipulate for the hypothetical, like, yes, okay, all your business dealings were above board and legal. All your paintings were purchased by art lovers who loved the product and didn't know your name. Trump is worse. You were on the board of Burisma because of who your dad is. And that is what people hate about Washington.
Truth hurts sometimes, doesn't it? This clash comes, of course, on the anniversary of President Joe Biden ending his reelection campaign, a decision that Hunter blames on what he called the betrayal of Democrat elites. In a lengthy sit-down with YouTuber Andrew Callahan, Hunter didn't hold back. He went after Hollywood names like George Clooney, longtime Democrat insiders like David Axelrod and James Carville, but he reserved some of his most personal jabs for the Pod Save America crew, whom he called the junior effing speechwriters living off of the Biden name. That drew some pretty swift and brutal responses from the podcast host, who were former top aides to Barack Obama. Lovett said sarcastically, referencing Hunter's business ties that have dogged Biden for years. He said, it must be so hard for Hunter Biden to watch all these people dining out on somebody's name. He also dismissed the interview as 3 hours of Hunter playing the victim, pointing out that despite Hunter's attack on Democrat power players, the real issue was Joe Biden's declining support among voters. And they nailed it on that, didn't they? I mean, when this young man said the voters thought Joe Biden was too old, that was the truth. And again, sometimes the truth hurts. And Hunter Biden did not want to hear that. Hunter Biden wanted his daddy to stay in the White House so he could continue to make some money. Because Hunter Biden has nothing to sell now. He has no influence to peddle. But this was just the beginning. These podcast hosts, they didn't stop there. They took aim at what they called the entitlement within the Biden family and the inner circle. The idea that Joe Biden was owed the presidency or a second term, no matter what the voters thought. Viator said, it's just very effing grating. These kids, their language is just filthy. They use the F-bomb just like it's a common word. This tension, though, if you look at it, it really highlights and brings home the deep cracks in the Democrat establishment following last year's election. It was a meltdown, and they're still melting down. Joe Biden's disastrous debate against Donald Trump, combined with growing concerns over his cognitive fitness, forced him to withdraw. I mean, the Democrats finally admitted what we already knew, that Joe Biden wasn't capable of being president then, certainly not for another 4 years. Hunter, in the interview the other day, where he disclosed that, well, the real problem was his dad had taken an Ambien, which has caused another uproar. We talked about that in yesterday's show, where, the White House doctors had never said that Joe Biden was taking Ambien. So which is the truth? Was Hunter telling the truth that Joe Biden has been taking Ambien and his doctors just did not disclose it? Or did the doctors not disclose it because Joe Biden never took Ambien and Hunter was lying? Who knows? Who cares? The podcasters, though, went on and talked about how Hunter refused to accept reality, and that Hunter, his accusation of the Democrat elite betraying his dad was just BS. Again, the public, the voters, were seeing through all of this. Now, what he left out, critics note, was any acknowledgement of his own role of the damage he did to his dad, whether it was the years of scandal, his tax and gun convictions, or the questions about foreign business ties. Hunter Biden has his own fair share of damage that he did to his dad that he doesn't want to live up to or doesn't want to admit. Not to mention the sympathy for sale book tours and media interviews and the artwork that he sold only because he was Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, not because anyone liked the art. The Pod Save America crew has been openly critical of Joe Biden's campaign strategy for months now. They have dissected it, and they've told the truth, whether they like it or not, whether Joe Biden likes it or not. The Democrat Party's civil war is ongoing. It hasn't cooled off at all. Many Democrats remain frustrated with how the Biden administration handled the campaign, while others blame big-name party donors and operatives for putting their thumbs on the scale. They still aren't blaming themselves for nominating a person like Kamala Harris who just wasn't qualified, someone who the American people had already expressed their discontent loud and clear. Nobody thought that Kamala Harris was up to the task. Why could the Democrats not see that? That's what they need to be asking themselves. President Donald Trump says that former President Barack Obama is guilty of treason and should be prosecuted. We're going to jump into that next. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. In a rare public statement yesterday, former President Barack Obama denied President Trump's bizarre allegations, as he described them, that he was the Russiagate ringleader during the 2016 run-up to the presidential campaign. Now, yesterday, President Trump claimed that former President Barack Obama was, quote, the ringleader of the Russiagate issue, calling for him to be criminally investigated amid new claims that members of the Obama administration allegedly manufactured intelligence that prompted the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. In the Oval Office yesterday, the president said the press needs to focus on Barack Obama.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 of the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
So in response to that, Obama spokesman Patrick Rodenbush said this in a statement. Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Obama spokesperson continued. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election but did not successfully manipulate any votes. He added, these findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the Bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then-Chairman Marco Rubio. Now, Rodenbush's statement on behalf of Obama comes after the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, recently declassified documents revealing, quote, overwhelming evidence that claimed that after Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, then President Obama and his national security team allegedly laid the groundwork for what would be the years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe. When asked who should be investigated yesterday, President Trump says that the DOJ needs to look into Obama and the whole Clinton team.
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they look. He's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like that. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
Ms. Gabbard said the documents revealed that Obama administration officials manufactured and politicized intelligence to allegedly create the narrative that Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 presidential election, despite information from the intelligence community stating otherwise, according to reports. Now, the new documents do, in fact, name Obama, top officials of his National Security Council, Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, CIA Director John Brennan, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Secretary of State John Kerry, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, among others. This is going to get kind of dicey, folks. This all started, of course, when Gabbard on Monday sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department related to those findings. Department of Justice officials did not share further details on whom the criminal referral was for, but we do know that it was for a wide, long list of Obama officials. No other former Obama-era officials have responded other than Barack Obama's office himself. The president went on to say that his administration has all the documents and will be proving this charge. We all know that this was a hoax. We all know that Hillary Clinton cooked this up. She paid millions of dollars for the Steele dossier. They still just can't get over the fact that Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. And now, 4 years later, Joe Biden did as well. Some good news coming out of the Trump White House. If you're a homeowner, you're going to want to listen to this. President Trump yesterday said that his administration is actively considering eliminating the capital gains tax on home sales. This is a major move that would offer a significant financial break to American homeowners and could energize the sluggish housing market. Here's what the president had to say.
Mr. President, let's follow up on the housing question.
Yeah.
We've got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market in this country?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses. And I'm very impressed that you asked that question because nobody knew that.
Well,
how did you find that out? That's very.
I wonder why there's so I'm very close.
There's a leaker. There's a leaker.
I've also got a question.
President having some fun with the reporters there, but saying, hey, look, this is something we're seriously considering. The proposal, which aligns with legislation recently introduced by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, would mark a dramatic shift in tax policy by scrapping a burden that many homeowners face when selling their property, especially in today's high-price market. And you shouldn't have to be punished because you happen to purchase a home for your family to live in, and because of our wonderful housing market, the prices going up, that it just almost cripples you to sell it and have to pay the capital gains tax on it. Ms. Greene's bill would remove capital gains taxes on home sales entirely, lifting what she called an outdated and unfair burden on middle-class families, and she's right. This is not something that would just benefit the rich. Yeah, the rich would benefit from it because, hey, it just makes sense. The millionaires, they have more expensive homes. But the average middle-class American family, let's just look at seniors, for example. They have invested, they paid for their homes, they worked their entire life to pay for their home, they get ready to sell it to possibly go into maybe a retirement community, and they're slapped with that capital gains tax. It takes away money that they need to continue living into their good years of retirement. Ms. Greene said in a statement, families who work hard, build equity, and sell their homes should not be punished with massive tax bills. The capital gains tax on home sales is an outdated, unfair burden, especially in today's market where values have skyrocketed. My bill fixes that, she said in her statement. Currently, single tax filers can exclude up to $250,000 in capital gains from the sale of a primary residence, while joint filers can exclude up to $500,000, a threshold that hasn't been updated since 1997, when obviously housing prices were much lower than they are today. And again, with home prices more than doubling in some markets around the country over the past, really last decade, in some cases since COVID, we have seen skyrocketing prices in the upstate of South Carolina, particularly around the Lake Kiowee area, Lake Hartwell, up in western North Carolina, Lake Toxaway. We've seen massive increases in property values, in home values. And as a result of that, a lot of people who are selling that exemption dated back to 1997 no longer covers the average seller's gain, especially, again, in the highest cost areas. And as a result, more and more homeowners are getting hit with steep tax bills when they try to cash out and move. Maybe even as they're simply downsizing. They don't have the kids in the house anymore. So they want to sell and move to something smaller. They get hit with a huge tax bill. Just not right. Shouldn't happen. President Trump's proposal would eliminate that tax liability altogether, effectively allowing Americans to keep all the equity they've earned in their homes, as we should be able to do. In the same Oval Office meeting yesterday, President Trump also took aim at Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, blaming him for keeping interest rates too high and suppressing home buying activity. The president said it's causing a problem for people who want to buy a home. People aren't able to buy a house because this guy is a numbskull. He keeps the rates too high, probably doing it for political reasons. There was a false letter being circulated on social media yesterday that appeared to be a resignation letter from Jerome Powell. If you saw that, it was not true. Jerome Powell did not resign. I wish he would, but he did not. The president predicted that Powell would be out within the next 8 months, even though his official term doesn't expire until May of 2026. We'll see. Look, give him early retirement. Let him go so that we can get interest rates down where they should be. There's no reason. There's no reason to keep interest rates where they are. Trump made clear that rate cuts and tax reform are both needed to unleash, as he said, the housing market. Just by lowering interest rates, he said, you'll see housing take off again. And he's right. He's right. So many young families out there just can't afford to move from their rentals to purchase their new home. Now, the capital gains tax proposal follows closely on the heels of President Trump's recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill, which eliminates federal taxes on tips, overtime pay, which was another major win for working Americans. Taken together, Trump's tax agenda is laser focused on putting more money back in the pockets of the middle class, rewarding work as it should, and removing bureaucratic obstacles to financial freedom. So, eliminating the capital gains tax on home sales, of course, it will require an act of Congress. President Trump can't do it with an executive order, meaning lawmakers would have to pass legislation to make it law. But why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't Congress? This should be bipartisan legislation because Democrats have to pay capital gains taxes too. They sell their home that has appreciated a lot. They have to pay the taxes. So why wouldn't the Democrats coalesce around the GOP and pass this bill that would help all Americans? But given the Republican majority in the House, maybe we could get it through without their help. Again, I just can't imagine that they would not. Trump allies are confident that the proposal could gain traction, particularly in an election year when the economy remains a top issue for voters. You get some of these Democrats who live in marginal districts, and they're wanting to get reelected in the midterms. They may just go for it. Supporters say the plan would not only boost home ownership, but it would also spur economic mobility. It would increase inventory by encouraging sellers to list their homes and bring more fairness to a tax system that hasn't kept up with the rising real estate values. Makes sense to me, right? The message from President Trump is pretty clear. If you worked hard, you played by the rules, and you built equity in your home, you should not be penalized when it's time to sell. It's a promise rooted in common sense and one that likely will resonate with millions of Americans. We shall see. One other thing that the Trump administration is doing, and this is just one of those things where you have to kind of laugh about it, because at the time when Joe Biden was just really pushing the electric vehicle and building the infrastructure in one of his lame brain, one of his spending plans, despite the Biden administration spending $7.5 billion to expand electric vehicle infrastructure, meaning chargers, fewer than 400 charging ports have been built in almost 3 years. This is according to a report from the Government Accountability Office. As of April 2025, when the report was published, only 384 charging ports across 68 stations in 16 states are operational under the federal program created by the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The GAO criticized the Joint Office overseeing the rollout for failing to set clear performance goals, targets, or timelines for deploying the chargers. Does this surprise you at all? No, it doesn't, does it? This is typical of these types of boondoggle-type programs. And we knew it when Joe Biden was trying to cram it down our throat. The numbers confirm longstanding criticisms that the EV rollout has been bogged down by bureaucracy and mismanagement, and they're just not needed. This was just another example of Joe Biden's pie in the sky. It sounded good. It played to his left-leaning Democrat Party, all the tree huggers, all the people who wanted to make you and me buy an electric vehicle whether we wanted to or not. Imagine that, $7.5 billion, and they only built 384 charging ports. That is just criminal. Yet Joe Biden would tell you today he had a very successful administration. We know differently. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. You know, California Governor Gavin Newsom paid us a visit here in the upstate of South Carolina not too long ago, wanting to get to know us, I guess, as he contemplates whether or not he'll run for president. There are a lot of issues that California has that would automatically disqualify Mr. Newsom from sitting in the Oval Office. But one that is really getting a lot of attention right now is the over $100 million that was donated to California fire victims, yet victims have received nothing according to an explosive report. So here's the story. You remember the Palisades and Eaton fires earlier this year that devastated Southern California. The fires destroyed over 2,000 homes and businesses, claimed 30 lives. The disaster was on the national news. It made world news. In response, there were two major fire aid benefit concerts held back January 30th, one at the Intuit Dome, the other at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. The concerts featured top-name artists donating their time. And again, more than $100 million was raised through donations intended to help fire victims rebuild their lives. But now, after the smoke has settled, pun intended, questions are growing about whether that money actually went to the fire victims. Who's benefiting? Well, California being what California is, does it surprise you that maybe it didn't go exactly where I'm sure most of the donors thought it would go? Back in April, an organization called Circling the News, which is a California-based news organization, sort of an independent news organization, reached out to the Annenberg Foundation, which was tasked by the governor's office with managing and distributing the fire aid funds. What kind of response did they get? No individual fire victim could receive money directly. The money, they said, was intended only for nonprofit organizations, despite the fund's stated purpose of helping those directly affected by the fires. Does this surprise you? The revelation has caused a lot of frustration and confusion among displaced residents who had been told that donations were being made for them, to help them rebuild their lives. Think about this. Over 2,000 homes and businesses burned to the ground. We have gone on. We have looked at other major news headlines on a daily basis now. The fires in California, we don't think much about anymore. But these people, many of whom still do not have homes, they're wanting to know where that $100 million that was celebrated back when the concerts were being held to benefit them, where's the money? Show me the money. Fox 11's Marla Tellez reported July 16th that many of the nonprofits receiving the fire aid money seemed ancillary, a polite way of pointing out that many had little to no direct connection to actual fire victims. One notable example came in round 2 of funding distributed in early June, when $25 million went to various nonprofits, including California Volunteers, Cal Volunteers, a state-run organization under Gavin Newsom's office. Cal Volunteers, which received an unspecified fire aid grant, is not a disaster relief agency. Instead, it is described as a public service office focused on engaging Californians in volunteering and civic action to tackle our state's most pressing challenges. I guess one could argue that Cal volunteered to help the fire victims. None of the fire victims seem to know how they benefited, though. The organization is headed by Jacqueline Yanayasi, who was appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom and earns a salary of $141,420. Look, with the $25 million infusion of money, Miss Yananishi, I don't think she has to be concerned about her salary not being paid anytime soon. Cal Volunteers operates under the governor's office, and the governor's wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, serves as honorary chair of its 25-member board of commissioners, all of whom are appointed by, guess who? Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, Cal Volunteers may serve a general civic purpose. Its connection to fire victims on the ground is unclear. In fact, it's hard to even draw any line of distinction between just what Cal Volunteer may or may not have done to help the fire victims. In another round of grants issued back in February, $50 million was distributed to over 120 nonprofit organizations. A fire aid press release stated that the initial phase of gifting prioritizes community-based organizations that are on the front lines of wildfire relief. Now, again, community-based organizations, nonprofits, none of this $50 million went directly to the fire victims, which again was the stated purpose of these concerts. And Gavin Newsom knows all of this. Many in the community say that they've seen little to no benefit from these funds, and that the people most directly affected by the fires are still waiting for help while funds flow into politically connected nonprofits and state agencies. Some other examples of recipients: Pathways LA reaches primarily single-parent families with a median income of $12,000. The executive compensation, those receiving nice fat checks, $291,000. Another nonprofit, After the Fire, evidently was set up just for this reason. It's located in Sonoma, California. Their purpose: we coach, we convene, we collaborate, we advocate. In 2022, the 990 form listed $120,000 in compensation for their executive director, with net assets of just under $500,000. Another example was the California Native Vote Project, which very clearly is sponsored by another nonprofit, Community Partners. The mission is to achieve justice and self-determination for Native American communities through multi-generational power building, organizing, and civic engagement. Now, do any of these appear to be benefiting the victims of the fire? Oh, and here's another good one. It's called IDEPSCA, Institute de Education Popular del Sur de California. Obviously a Hispanic organization. I can't exactly read the title here. Its mission: to create a more humane and democratic society by responding to the needs and problems of disenfranchised people through leadership development and educational programs based on popular education methodology. I don't even know what that means, but the executive compensation was over $100,000. Their salaries and wages totaled $1.2 million. I don't think they're benefiting many of the fire victims directly. Do you? And Gavin Newsom thinks that the American people want him in the Oval Office? That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com. And I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.